If you're lucky enough to go to Oaxaca City in southern Mexico, you will find, well, it looks like a Hollywood set, cobblestone streets, 1- and 2-story buildings, parrot greens, cornflower blue. It's absolutely wonderful, as are the people. But you're going to get some surprises as well. The green mole is bright with cilantro and mint. The black beans are one of those universal recipes that are absolutely stunning. And finally, you can throw together a pozole, a simple stew, in very little time and make it any time during the week. So stay tuned right here at Milk Street as we explore the secrets of Mexico.
Funding for this series was provided by the following.
Ferguson's proud to support Milk Street and culinary crusaders everywhere. For more information on our extensive collection of kitchen products, we're on the web at fergusonshowrooms.com.
For 25 years, Consumer Cellular's goal has been to provide wireless service that helps people communicate and connect. We offer a variety of no-contract plans, and our U.S.-based customer service team can help find one that fits you. To learn more, visit consumercellular.tv.
Since 1899, my family shared our passion for everything that goes into our Mutti 100% Italian tomatoes. Only tomatoes, only Mutti.
Designed by cooks for cooks for over 100 years. Cookware collection by Regalware, handcrafted in Wisconsin.
The AccuSharp Knife and Tool Sharpener, designed to safely sharpen knives in seconds. AccuSharp, keep your edge.
You know, one of the great surprises when I was in Oaxaca is that a mole is not what I thought it was. It's just a sauce. So it can be water and cornmeal and some chilies. It can be tomatillos and poblanos and onion. It can be almost anything. It doesn't have to have 6 different kinds of chilies or 25 ingredients. Some of them are actually relatively simple to make, as is this. And also, if you live 10 miles away from someone, their idea of a yellow mole is totally different than that person that lives in Oaxaca City. So even within a small geographic area, how you make a yellow or green mole or black mole would be quite different.
Absolutely. I love mole. I love it in any way, shape, or form. This green mole is one of my absolute favorites because it's very light. You have all those herbs and a little bit of spice, but it's not hot. There's a complexity there and a lightness that's really surprising too. We're gonna start ours with a base of chicken broth thickened with corn tortillas, which is an interesting way to replicate the masa that's usually used to thicken it. Before we get the broth going, let's go ahead and season our chicken. We're gonna use 2 pounds of boneless, skinless chicken thighs and season well. Remember, you wanna season things start to finish. And we can just use our tongs to toss that. And now we're gonna start our broth. We're gonna have 4 cups of low sodium chicken broth. And we're gonna bring that up to simmer over medium-high with 7 6-inch corn tortillas. You can use white, yellow, just make sure it's a corn tortilla.
That is the single weirdest thing we've ever done at Milk Street in 3 years. You're stuffing tortillas into some chicken stock.
They're gonna soften up, and then we're gonna puree them, and that's gonna form the basis of the sauce that we're gonna make here.
You know, while we were there, we drove outside to Teotitlan, which is about 20 miles outside of Oaxaca City. And there's a Zapotec cook who does the traditional cooking. So she took corn and she roasted it on a comal, which was really cool. And then she ground it on a metate. And then she used that as the thickener for the yellow mole she was doing.
Oh, but that was fantastic. The broth has come up to a simmer, and you can see that the tortillas have really softened up. So let's go ahead and transfer those to the blender. And Chris, you know what? If the tortillas break up a little bit and they dissolve into the broth, that's okay. So we're gonna take those tortillas and we're gonna add 1/4 cup of water to help loosen it up. And let's puree these. We want it to be a pretty smooth paste. Should take about a minute. Let's go ahead and scrape that into our broth. You can see it's a pretty thick paste, and that's going to be the basis for this
It's actually
mole.
pretty smart, I have to say.
Well, thank you. Let's bring that back to a simmer, and we're going to whisk that in. You can smell the corn too, so you get that really clear corn flavor. So at this point, we can add our seasoned chicken to the pot. Cover it and reduce it to low. And it should take about 30 minutes, but you want that chicken to be really tender. You can easily pierce it with a knife. So while that chicken is simmering in the tortilla thickened broth there, we're gonna broil our vegetables. So we want a little bit of charring, and what this does is replicates the camal that's typically used in Mexico for your aromatics. It's dry frying. You want a little charring, a little speckle, but you don't really want to blacken these things. So we're gonna go ahead, and we've got 4 garlic cloves, 2 tomatillas. They add this nice acidity. So we've just halved those. You can arrange those there. And then we've got a poblano chili. These aren't green peppers. They've got this great earthy flavor. We've got 1 white onion. It's just a small white onion. White onions are used a lot in Mexican cooking. They have a brighter flavor. And we're gonna broil these. We want the rack about 4 inches from the element, and it's about 3 to 5 minutes per side. Again, you want some speckling. You don't want to char it. We broiled all those veggies about 3 to 5 minutes per side. Then we let them cool for 5 minutes. You don't want to add hot things to a blender, or you can have it explode all over the ceiling. Then we're going to add a half cup of water just to help lubricate it. And we're going to puree this for about 30 seconds until it's sort of smooth.
Okay.
And to this, we're going to start adding our herbs and spices. A half cup of mint. The mint replicates the epazote, which is normally added to this sauce. Fennel seed. And what this replicates is the hoja santa leaves, which are common in
And we
Hawaiian
happen
cooking.
to have them here.
Oh, excellent.
Now, I had this at a restaurant in Austin. It was a woman who had a restaurant in Oaxaca for 20 years and then moved up to Austin. And her leaves were a little bit bigger. She just picked them right outside the restaurant. And then she filled them with quesillo cheese, which is good, with a green salsa. It was quite tasty.
Yum.
And this is the epazote. There's a little fennel and a little mintiness to it. It's a really unique flavor.
So the mint fennel combo really does a good job of replicating those flavors. So to that, we're going to add a bunch of cilantro, 1 cup of flat leaf parsley leaves, which really helps set the color, 3/4 teaspoon ground black pepper, a teaspoon of whole cumin seed, and 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. And we want to puree this really smooth. So at this point, we can go ahead and add the remaining ingredients to our soup. And we're going to add 1 yellow zucchini, 8 ounces of little Yukon Gold potatoes, and then 6 ounces of green beans, trimmed about 1-inch lengths. So we can go ahead and stir those in. And we're going to cook it at medium uncovered for about 15 minutes. You just want the vegetables tender. You don't want those potatoes breaking down. It's been 15 minutes and everything looks tender. So we're going to take that puree and we're just going to stir it right in. This is like the Wizard of Oz. Do you remember when it goes from black and white to full color?
What does that have to do with green mole?
Well, it looks really bland, and then we go ahead and we add that puree, and it totally changes. It really becomes this lustrous green color. And that's it. Let's go ahead and serve. Chris, that color is amazing.
I have to say, okay, yeah, the color is amazing.
And you can smell the herbs, you can smell the corn. There's this amazing viscosity to the sauce from the tortillas that we pureed in. And the herbs are so fresh and so bright because we didn't cook those at all. We just added it in at the very last minute.
So I learned 2 things going to Oaxaca, that a mole is almost anything. Also that I'd like to move to Oaxaca because the food and the people are so wonderful. But here, this is a green mole. We use tomatillos, poblanos. We also thicken the chicken stock with tortillas, corn tortillas, which is a little bit of a quick fix here at Mill Street. Very simple recipe, but has really great depth of flavor. So Oaxacan green mole with chicken, I think it's an absolute must on everyone's repertoire. You know, every once in a while here at Milk Street, we like to invite a friend of Milk Street in. This is Gonzalo Guzman. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
To show us how to cook their food from their experience. Gonzalo, you have Nopalito restaurants in San Francisco. I've been there. The food is great, and that's why you're here today, because I love the food. So we're doing pozole rojo.
Correct.
So what is pozole? What does it actually mean, pozole?
Well, pozole just, means soup, but it's a soup that has been around for many years since the Aztecs. It was a ritual that they will do, sacrificing someone to offer it to their gods, and then they will make it into a soup.
This was not the answer I was expecting. So in other words, it goes back to human sacrifice?
Right, it started all there. Traditionally, we'll be using every part of the pig. Today, we're going to make it more like simple, and we're just going to be using a pork shoulder to make our pozole rojo.
Okay, so we're going to keep it simple now. So
yeah, and to make that, we need just a few ingredients. But one of the main ingredients for this soup is the dry chili that we're going to be using. We're going to be using ancho chilies, which we have right here. Other recipes will use guajillo chilies or tomatoes. But again, I like the flavor of this chili specifically because it gives you that mole taste,
richer
like
taste.
richer, and fruity. So we'll first do like a little paste. We call it adobo. So for that, we just boil some water, which we have right here.
So can I ask you a question? So if you buy ancho chilies or guajillo chilies, dried chilies, should they be, if they're brittle and hard, they're not good, right? You want them to be like sort of like leather. They want to be sort of malleable.
Right. For this kind of specific chilies, yes, you want them to be a little bit more like rubbery, softer, because that means that they're kind of meaty. So meat, a lot more of their raisins and dried fruit flavors into the. Again, at this point, we just let it sit for like 20 to 25 minutes until they're really soft, and then we're just gonna mix it all together, and we're gonna blend it and form that paste.
Okay.
Okay, so now the chilies have been sitting here for like 25 minutes already. See how they're nice and soft, so they're ready to be blended, and just throw the chilies in it. Followed by all the onions.
So blender, I noticed everyone in Oaxaca had blenders. It's a key tool in Mexican cooking because you're always making salsas or adobos.
You know, it's funny, but when I was growing, like we didn't have a blender. We had a metate.
Right.
I don't know if you're familiar with
Yes,
this. It's a piece of stone,
Right.
and that's where people will make their adobos.
And they roll over
and they roll
like
it.
this.
Yeah, and that's I think the whole idea of making adobos because they wouldn't. If you had a lot of liquid, then it doesn't really work. Everything goes everywhere if you're using the metate. So again, all the dry ingredients, onions, garlic, always add a little salt, and then pour this liquid into the magic blender. And then we're gonna make our adobo. And that's your turn now.
This is my job. Okay.
All right, let's see. Okay, so now we have it and it's ready. So we're just gonna leave it here and we're gonna move on to the next step because we're gonna be using this later for our pozole. As I mentioned, we're using a pork shoulder in this pozole. So we're just gonna throw all this pat. So we got our pork here, cut into 1 inch square. Then we have our hominy, which is corn cooked all the way through. That's what it means. But also, this has been nixtamalized already, which means that you have to cook that in water and then add your cal, which is calcium, and then bring it up to boil, wash it, rinse it all off to get all the skin of the corn.
Or you could go to the supermarket and buy it in a can.
Right, which is the easier way.
So when you were growing up, did you have to do this?
Yeah, everything we had to do ourselves. We used to grow the corn and then dry it and then nixtamalize it for tortillas or for pozole. So again, just throw it all in there. Throw water in it too. What we're gonna do here, we have some cheesecloth and then a quarter of an onion, which you can cut it or leave it into big pieces. You don't really have to.
This looks like I'm cooking with Jacques Pepin now. This is the French cheesecloth trick.
Well, yeah, traditionally you wouldn't do that. I mean, we don't even have cheesecloth in Mexico, where I'm from. So this is my thing.
This is your thing.
This is my thing.
Cheesecloth is your thing, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bay leaf, garlic, cilantro. Tie it all together. We throw it into the soup. And then we're gonna add the adobo, which again is the paste we did earlier with the ancho chilies and all the spices. And we're just gonna throw it in there. Might splash a little bit in the chili, so. And then at the end, we're just gonna add some more salt. And I'm not gonna completely season it because this is gonna, come to boil. It's gonna reduce, so it might get too salty if you completely season it. So we'll just a little bit, just for.
So this is going to cook for quite a while since it's pork shoulder.
Right. So then we just bring it up to boil for about an hour to an hour and a half, and then we taste it again for salt and everything, and then we just add all these other ingredients when we put it on the table. All right. So now we're gonna check our soup. Should be ready. So what I do normally, kind of like get the meat and hominy first, like halfway, and then liquid the other half, so you got like nice balance. I'm not gonna do a lot. So now there's different ways of eating it. This is chile guajillo and chile de árbol that were toasted and then grinded.
That's your Nopalito chili powder?
Right. So it's pretty spicy. But if you're hangover, just go crazy with the chili. It's gonna
Oh,
make
that
you-
solves a hangover?
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah, it
you know
works.
that from experience?
And then cabbage, some radishes.
So, I mean,
Onions.
this concept of making a soup and then lots of garnishes, a lot of, like in Somalia, they do the same thing with the chicken soup. I really like that idea because a lot of those fresh flavors come in at the end, so.
Yeah, so your pozole is half of the soup. The other half is this.
Right.
Lime juice. Now, the way I eat it, like making little tostadas with just the hominy and the corn.
I'm using the spoon for the whole thing because it's going to get all over, You did a good job.
So mine needs a little lime. The other way, you scramble chips.
That was hot, I got to say. I didn't put too much on it.
Yeah, but adds a lot of flavor.
It does a lot of flavor, yeah.
That's all. That's all it takes.
In the classic European method, this is so different. You're cooking meat and water with some flavorings and adding a lot of fresh flavorings at the end. So you get a lot of contrast and texture and flavor, and it's really easy to do. Gonzalo Guzman from Nopalito, thank you very much. Pozole Rojo is absolutely fabulous, and it's also easy to do. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for having me.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Every culture has one or two basic recipes they use all the time. In Oaxaca, in southern Mexico, they have a black bean recipe. Every house you go into, there's a pot with black beans. They sort of cook them slowly for a long time, and they use them in almost everything. So we do have a recipe for this based on canned black beans, which is sort of a fix-it-up quick version of this. But this is the real deal and has great flavor, and I would even make a double recipe because it'll last a long time, and you can use it on anything.
That's right, Chris. And it is the real deal. And it's not super quick, but it is super easy. This is a pretty straightforward recipe. And a nice thing about black beans is you don't have to soak them. So to get started, I'm gonna heat up a tablespoon of lard.
Well, lard's gotten a bad name, but then everyone started using margarine and this other stuff, which is garbage. Lard comes from the fat around the kidney in the pig, leaf lard, and you render it. So you cube it in little pieces. I've done this many times in a Dutch oven with a cup or two of water so it doesn't brown. And then it starts to melt, and the stuff on top is very pure and has no pork flavor. Use it in pie pastry. The stuff at the bottom, however, that starts to brown with little bits is called asiento, which is what they use in Oaxaca. And they use that as a spread on a tortilla before they put the black beans on. It's got great flavor, and everyone should go out and use lard. Just get over it.
So we like the flavor of the lard here. It does add some savoriness. Now, if you wanted to be vegetarian or you just simply couldn't find lard, you can use refined coconut oil here, and it works quite well. So it's just starting to smoke, and I can actually smell that lard a little bit. It smells really good. I'm gonna add 1 large white onion here. We have a pint of cherry tomatoes, or grape tomatoes.
And we don't even have to cut them up.
No, you just throw them right in there. And then we have 5 guajillo chilies, and we did take out those seeds, which add quite a bit of heat, and of course take off the stems. And we're just gonna cook this for 5 to 7 minutes. We wanna get a little bit of browning on it, obviously kind of soften and sweeten everything up. All right, Chris, so you can see we have some nice browning here, and it's starting to smell really good. I'm gonna add a pound of the dried black beans, 10 cloves of garlic, we're not messing around. We have a couple bay leaves and a teaspoon of anise seed, and I'll kind of explain that flavor combination to you. Could you add the water, please?
So this is 10 cups of water?
10 cups of water. Once you add the water, we're gonna bring it up to a boil, and then we'll turn it down to low, partially cover it, and let it simmer for about 1.5 to 2 hours. As you probably know from your travels, this recipe originally was made with avocado leaves, and they actually provide quite a bit of flavor. We really noticed a difference, but it just was unreasonable to think that people were going to source avocado leaves. So we found that this combination of bay leaves and aniseed and then some oregano, which we're going to add towards the end, really did a nice job of mimicking that flavor.
Okay.
Okay, Chris, so these have been going for about an hour and a half. And I just want to check them to make sure that they're tender. Sometimes if you have older beans, it can take a little bit longer. So this is really what you're looking for. Some of them are already bursting. That's fine. This is all going to get blended, and that's much better than having like a crunchy bean. We're going to take out those bay leaves. So now we're going to drain them, but you can see we're reserving the bean liquid. Now, this is a little messy. If you wouldn't mind reserving 2 cups of that bean liquid for me. And then if there's some left over, you don't want to toss that either. Set it aside, because when you're reheating the beans, or if you want to make black bean soup, you want to use that liquid to thin them out.
Okay. Okay.
Great. Yeah. All right, so now we're going to just pulse these a few times to kind of break them up. And all the flavor from all of those garlic cloves and the guajillos and everything are going to make their way into the beans. All right, Chris, now with the motor running, I'm gonna stream in about 1.5 cups of this liquid. Okay, these look great. They're kind of glossy, smooth. Mm-hmm. They smell really
aromatic.
Good. Beautiful. Okay, so now we're gonna do the refried part of the refried beans. So we have 2 tablespoons of lard. And you wanna make sure you're using a nonstick skillet here, because we're gonna be cooking these beans down. So I'm gonna add some aromatics here, 5 more cloves of garlic that we've minced up, 4 teaspoons of cumin, 4 teaspoons of coriander, a tablespoon of ancho chili powder, so this isn't your standard chili powder, that's a mix of spices, and then a teaspoon of dried oregano. And it's just gonna take about 30 seconds for this to get nice and fragrant, and then we'll add in the beans.
And this is just a classic master technique, which is blooming your spices in oil or lard. It brings their flavor out before you add other ingredients. And you can also toast whole spices and then grind them as well. But blooming spices is classic in Indian cooking as well. Just a really good first step.
So this is gonna take about 8 to 10 minutes here. I'm gonna turn it down. So you just wanna stay put and stir it, letting those flavors really meld together. So you can see, Chris, this looks quite a bit more concentrated and cooked down. We cook it for 8 to 10 minutes and get some nice browning, and then for another 5 to 7, you keep cooking it down, and you can add some more of that reserved liquid if you need. But this looks perfect. We want it to be like mashed potatoes, and here we are. So we're gonna finish this with a final tablespoon of lard. Just gonna give it a nice sheen and a little bit more richness. And let's serve.
Okay. Mmm.
All right, Chris, since you were the one lucky enough to go to Mexico, why don't you serve these up the
It was a work trip.
way?
It was work. We're not going to put lard on it, but we'll put a bit of the black beans on. Serve yourself cheese, and there we are. Okay. Oh. That's not a hard recipe to make. Like, the cooking's easy. There's a few ingredients, but boy, that really tastes good.
I wasn't expecting it to have such a deep flavor.
So from Oaxaca, a great foundation recipe, Oaxacan refried black beans. We started with a pound of dried beans, some cherry tomatoes, guajillo chilies. Cooked that with about 10 cups of water for an hour and a half or so. Drained it out, and then we finished them in a skillet with lots of spices to finish. And we have a mix now, black bean mix you can use for tlayudas, for almost anything. Actually, for a simple quesadilla, just add black beans to it. And you can get this recipe, all the recipes from this season of Milk Street at milkstreettv.com.
Funding for this series was provided by the following.
Ferguson's proud to support Milk Street and culinary crusaders everywhere. For more information on our extensive collection of kitchen products, we're on the web at fergusonshowrooms.com.
For 25 years, Consumer Cellular has been offering no-contract wireless plans designed to help people do more of what they like. Our U.S.-based customer service team can help find a plan that fits you. To learn more, visit consumercellular.tv.
Since 1899, my family shared our passion for everything that goes into our Mutti 100% Italian tomatoes. Only tomatoes, only Mutti.
Designed by cooks for cooks for over 100 years. Cookware collection by Regalware, handcrafted in Wisconsin.
The AccuSharp Knife and Tool Sharpener, designed to safely sharpen knives in seconds. AccuSharp, keep your edge.